Thank you, Natalie. So, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome everyone to the first webinar of this third round named Critical Reflections on Inclusive Nature-Based Solutions. This third chapter builds on the collective experience of the TRANS-lighthouses project and invites us to reflect on what it really takes to make nature-based solutions truly inclusive. Today's webinar, Ethics in Action, focus on the ethical dimensions of the Living Knowledge Labs. We will explore this topic through two cases, the Azores and Cáceres. We are familiar with the ethical and legal frameworks, the informed consents, the protocols, and the formal requirements that guide our work and our research. But ethics goes far beyond ticking boxes. This is a strong argument that we use from the beginning. So, what does it really mean to put ethics into action? How do we build trust in our everyday interactions with participants and communities? How do ethical principles shape the way we listen, collaborate, and make decisions throughout the co-creation processes? So, and perhaps most importantly, what have we learned along the way? Which lessons learned, recommendations can we offer for funding agencies, some institutions, boards, future projects, and everyone committed to making participatory process more ethical, meaningful, and inclusive? We will begin with a presentation from the Azores team, Rita, Matias, and after we will follow by the experience from Cáceres with Franco and Mónica, Cuende. Afterwards, we are delighted to welcome Mónica Lopes, who kindly accepted our invitation to join us today. She will share her reflections on the experiences presented and help us to have a deepened discussion on the ethics in action. Thank you all for joining us and hope that you enjoy this webinar. I'd just like to introduce a small bio from Mónica. She's Mónica Lopes. She's a researcher at SES and member of the research group Democracy, Justice and Human Rights. She holds a PhD in sociology from the University of Coimbra. Her research focuses on public policy, social policy evaluation, and gender equality, with over 2 decades of experience in European and national research projects. Alongside her academic work, she was served on the SES Scientific Council and chaired the SES Ethics Committee during 2023-2024, contributing to the ethical governance of research and institutional decision-making. So it's very important to have her experience and thoughts about it. Drawing on this combined experience, she brings to the webinar the practice-based perspective on ethics in action, reflecting how ethical principles inform research, governance, and the design, conduct, and evaluation of collaborative research. Thank you so much. I will give the floor to Rita and stop sharing. So now you can share. Thank you so much for your collaboration and participation.
Thank you, Andreia. Please let me know if you can see my presentation.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rita, and it is a real pleasure to be here today. I would first like to congratulate SES and warmly thank Natalie and Andreia for all your support and bringing us together. Although I am the one presenting today, the reflections I will share are the outcome of a collective discussion within our team at University of the Azores. So I will therefore like to acknowledge and sincerely thank all my colleagues for their ideas and many patience. So this presentation focused on Lagoa's pilots in the Azores, Portugal, that is centered on the trail, the Rota d'Água Janela do Inferno Trail. So in English, we could translate to Water Route, the Hell's Window Trail. So this pilot explores how a community trail can foster health, well-being, and local development, while also strengthening the relationship between people and nature. So using this case study, we will examine how ethical principles were operationalized throughout the pilot's implementation, but also identifying the main ethical issues that emerge during the fieldwork, and also discuss the lessons we learned for future NBS projects. So these slides really set out the ethical framework foundation of our pilot. So everything we did on the trail was guided by the TRANS-lighthouses framework. So this framework rests in five big dimensions. The first one is the ethics of care. So the well-being, the safety, the respect of everyone taking part, the participants on the pilot. A second dimension is participation and co-creation. So the meaningful engagement, how we were managed to do that, shared decision-making, and valuing different knowledge systems, not only experts' knowledge. The third one, and particularly central for the nature-based solution, is of course the human-nature relationship. So fostering a reciprocal bond between humans and nature. So fourth is, of course, data protection and research integrity, which, of course, for us in the pilot, since we are part of a university, meant that every activity we developed had to have the approval of our ethical commission. So that meant, as Andreia was saying, the informed consent, confidentiality, and responsible data management. And fifth, the equality, inclusion, and human rights dimension. So making sure the trail and its activities are accessible to diverse groups without discrimination. So, of course, each dimension is grounded in established theory, and the five dimensions, they become the backbone of the monitoring matrix we used, and I'm going to show you further on, to check activity by activity whether these principles were actually respected in practice. So moving from the framework to the implementation, we developed an ethical monitoring matrix applied to each activity of the pilot. Here, the logic is quite simple. So for every ethical dimension, we define the concrete ethical concern. And for each concern, we set a number of indicators that were practical questions that we could actually answer with evidence. So things like, were participants' needs met? Was local knowledge valued? Was consent properly obtained? So it's a very broad matrix. Second thing I would like to highlight is following up with the guidance of the TRANS-lighthouse framework, we set up ethical focal points. We aggregated 4 members, 1 pilot member from the municipality of Lagoa, 1 scientific member, part of our team, and 2 community representatives. So their role was to accompany the ethical implementation of the activities. So going now for the results. For the purpose of this presentation, of course, we had grouped into 4 types of activities, the very enormous activities we had along the pilot. So we have data collection, qualitative and quantitative data, participatory workshops and participatory budgeting, cultural and nature engagement, environmental education, and citizen science. So we could say that broadly speaking, ethical principles were considered and implemented across many of the pilot activities, as the green shows. For instance, dimensions like ethics of care and data processing were solid throughout. But of course, an honest evaluation also has to show where we fell short and the colors that make that easy to read. For instance, 2 points stand out in red. First, the human-nature relationship in data collection. Some of our research practice carried a little bit of a higher environmental footprint because, of course, some questionnaires had to be in paper. So that is something to improve and reflect also our practice as a researcher. This is also an ethical concern for us. A second is participation in workshops and participatory budgeting. We obviously tried to integrate as much broader stakeholder we could, as broadly as possible, of course, but it's not always possible to include all the participants we desire. And this is a challenge for us. For instance, the farmers with land on the trail were a little bit tricky. So this is, of course, a challenge we also identify. So for the amber yellow cells, here are areas we flagged to verify or strengthen, for instance, confirming the real impact of nature connection activities. But overall, the picture is reassuring, but the value of, we believe, of this matrix isn't the green, is that it made our gaps visible and turned them into concrete next steps. But we would like to share with you a concrete example. So let me walk you through one activity that we did, a participatory workshop with stakeholders that held to co-design activities and future actions for the Lagoa pilot. And what I want to show you is that each ethical dimension became a practical decision, not an abstract principle. For instance, all the protocol of the workshop had to go through the Azores, the University of the Azores Ethical Committee. We tried to include a large number of stakeholders from different sectors. We had 26 stakeholders, which we were very happy. Of course, we had to choose a venue and a time that were friendly for all of them. There were informed consent forms that these stakeholders had to sign before the workshop. And a major theme that rose from the debate with the stakeholders was the human-nature relationships. So regarding the trail, discussions about how to restore the trail's ecological integrity, addressing environmental risks for human and for nature. So this was a big theme that was reflected on. And then a couple of weeks later, the team prepared a summary report with all the ideas, concerns, and actions that the stakeholders had. We then delivered this document to the stakeholders for their validation and feedback. We then had a follow-up meeting where we agreed on some of the actions. And right now we decided that we are going to do a community, WhatsApp community group, Friends of the Trail, for the communication to keep going even after the project ends. And I think that this is particularly important because embedding ethics, it's also about building a relationship that outlasts the project. So starting now on the overall assessment. Here, the green lights reflect the dimensions that we considered were strongly implemented, like ethics of care, equality, and inclusion. And we would like to highlight a particular example of local inclusion that we are very proud of. One of the hardest things, and all the ones that are here know that very well, in any participatory project is reaching the people who usually stay away. And here the pilot managed to reach some of the Lagoa's residents who were the least connected to the nature and to the trail, even though they lived in Remédios, which is very close to the trail. And the single most important factor that was identified was having a community champion. So a trust, there were a lot of community champions, I would say, but this particular one was really important. So this figure of a trusted local figure who helped bring the gap between the project and the residents. And that's the lesson I would underline here, that inclusion isn't achieved by inviting everyone equally. Sometimes it's achieved by actively supporting those who start from further away. Sometimes we need to bring the trail to the people so the people can go to the trail. And often it takes someone from within the community to make that bridge. So going now for the evaluation of participation and co-creation, it earned an amber light. It is good, but with a clear room to improve. So two things stood out. First, internally, the actors serving as our ethical focal points could have been more actively involved throughout. And this is something we can maybe discuss a little bit in the debate. Second, as it is in most important, most participatory project, the people who show up tends to be the ones who are already engaged and interested. And here the challenge is reaching the less represented groups. So our way forward is to explicitly identify who usually stays away from the trail. In our case, we know it's older people, people with disabilities. It's not a very friendly trail for people with motor disabilities. And also low-income families. This is something that we understood from the data collected from the questionnaires. There is a clear relation between low capital, social capital, and low education with nature, the level of natural relationship. People with low levels of education tend to connect less with the trail. And we think that designing a target strategy for each group, it's important. So, because in the picture on the right, we see this community assembly in Remédios was an excellent experience. We collect a lot of interesting information. It was a good start. But genuine inclusion means making sure that the people who aren't yet in the room are the ones we design for next. And now for the human-nature relationship is marked as developing. So because it's the dimension that most defines NBS and also the hardest one to get right. And the photos really show why. So along the trail, we found the spread of invasive species, and also a protected vulnerable species, the great crested newt. So the trail is a living tension between that threatens the ecosystem and also what deserves protection. So our way forward here is to maybe have a shift of mind that curbing invasives and protecting vulnerable species is an ethical commitment to nature, not merely a technical one. And finally, I think we could have a way forward if it was implemented, monitor ecological biodiversity indicators such as the path erosion, indicator of species, disturbance to wildlife, so we can actually track whether these things improve. So this is where we have most to learn, okay? And honestly, where being an NBS has to mean something. Finally, we would like to bring you a dilemma, which I think it's a dilemma that we all share in this project, and is one we never fully resolved, and I don't think we should pretend to. The question here is, how can nature's voice actually be heard? And we have more questions than answers. Some of them is the very intention to speak for nature itself anthropocentric? Who gave us the mandate to interpret interests that are not our own? And even if we accept this task, which nature are we representing? Is it a pristine forest? Is an ecosystem out of balance? A river? Is the crested newt that we saw before? So we the pilot didn't solve this, and we would really like to hear from you what you think about this. But we tried to act pragmatically, while staying aware, of course, of the limits. For instance, we measured the trail carrying capacity. We gave the ecosystem proxy voices by including experts, local technicians that are really aware of the reality of the site, environmental association. Because when different forms of knowledge converge, the legitimacy of the representation increases, even if it's never perfect. So what we take away from the lessons from Lagoa's pilots, if we had to keep one lesson, it is this: ethics has to accompany the whole project life cycle, and activity by activity. And this is my personal evaluation as a researcher on the project. I think it was very important to have, from the beginning, a very clear ethical framework from the project of the concerns we had to apply. So the level of engagement with the stakeholders, the ethics of care, that was really important to have from the beginning in this project. A second lesson that we had, and it's an encouraging one, it's from our experience from the participatory workshops and the assemblies, is that inclusion is not only an ethical imperative, it actually produces better outcomes. When people are genuinely involved, they want to play an active role in shaping solutions for their own territory and their own environments. But of course, there are some challenges still. We had to go through the lengthy ethics review process and all the administrative procedures from the University Ethics Committee, which of course delayed a lot of our activities. And this is also food for thought in our discussion, maybe. And another big dilemma for us, and it is a familiar one, is how do we secure the long-term inclusion of diverse voices beyond the usual suspects, right? How do we reach the people who are usually absent from the trail? This is, we don't have answers, we have some clues, but this is still in our minds. And finally, to conclude, some recommendations fall into 4 concrete moves. So starting by strengthening the participation, we think that this idea of having ethical focal points is extremely interesting, and this is for sure a recommendation that we leave for other projects regarding NBS and other kinds of projects. But one thing, it's important to how do we improve involving them early, and keep calling them for assessing how the ethics part is being implemented. So I think this will help with the improving ethics monitoring. It is important also to document not just what worked, but the dilemmas and how we respond to them. And because by tracking ethical impacts over time, we can make adjustments along the way. And most of all, of course, the nature-based for the nature-based solution, it is very important to reflect on making human-nature relationships and the voice of nature much more explicit, and how decisions are made. But if you take one sentence from this whole presentation, let it be this: we believe that ethical governance is not about achieving perfection. It's about continuously reflecting on these ethical issues, like we are doing this today, to make our NBS more inclusive, more transparent, and more socially legitimate. It's like just like walking a trail, we have to do it step by step. So thank you so much for your attention, and I look forward for the discussion.
Thank you so much, Rita, for your presentation. Now I will give the floor to Franco and Mónica Cuende.
Hi, good afternoon. I will make a short presentation, and after that, will come Mónica with more detailed subjects concerning open source and ethical framework concerning technological world, which is one of the main issues we consider from our pilot that we must face regarding the future. So I'm going to share you. Here you have. So that will be divided in two parts. In the first one, I will be the both voice. So I will make some reflection about a general approach about what we feel about the concept of ethic in action in TRANS-lighthouses from our perspective, from the pilot, but even from the assessment case. As you know, in our case, we are participating both in the assessment case of Madrid and in the pilot case of Cáceres. And I would like to share with you some comparison concerning ethical issues in both territories. So we have divided my intervention in a conceptual framework. We have divided in what we call minimum convention, which means the ethical issues that arise from the field work, authorizations, the signature of participants, requirements, which are the minimum conventions, but we expect to go, as you present, Andreia, in your presentation, we expect to go further than that. We have a second, what we can call medium convention, and that expect to have some impact in the ethical framework of the policymakers, the governance. This is the participatory, but it's not just a participatory issue concerning another work package. It's radically related with the ethical framework and the ethical inaction. We are working together, and there as well a third step in this schedule, which is the higher convention that will be related, as Rita remarked, with the natural relations, with deep cultural relation with nature from the communities, but as well in our case, Mónica will explain something about the technological and open source challenges. Mónica will talk about free open sources, and we have been discussing, preparing this presentation about from the ethic of data, which is the minimum, to the governance of the code, which is the maximum. This is our goal at last, touching one of the core of the political European policy decision, which concern the management of the data and the participation of the citizenship. So in that aspect, we will talk about open science, open code, and the free software, right? We will not have time enough for talking about something that Mónica has talked before, and probably she will continue sharing this dimension of our reflection concerning the gender and ethic, and particularly a concept that we are using, which is traditional segregation. But I want to point that, even if Mónica will not have time for keep it longer. What means us for traditional segregation? In our pilot case, all the majors, the 13 majors with which we are working are men, and 90% of the people that participate in the assemblies are women, right? So we have a segregation. It's a segregation which it's part of the culture of the territory. So we are just sharing with you this reality in order to discuss further on that. It's just an open gate for further discussion. So how we think and has been how we have been focusing in the minimum convention of the field work and participation. So we have two main different subjects of work. We start during the first year and a half training people, what we call organic change agents. In Spanish, we say that agentes de cambio orgánico, which is a new profession that we are as well discussing with the Minister of Labor and Employment. We want to consolidate this profession of people which are practitioners, which are involved in the ethical subjects of activism, in order to change the world where they are running. Some of them will be workers in the municipalities, but many of them as just individual citizens with engagement with ecology, association of movements related with based social care. So we have been training 34 people. In that case, the minimum convention is clear. All of them make a pre-inscription. We decided who will continue, all of them, and then they decided to participate with an inscription in a training process, really practical with theory, but they must apply in their locality what they decided to become as practitioners, organic change agents. So in that point, the minimum convention, it's clear. In the second, it's a bit more difficult to have all the points that probably the project expects. In the second step, we choose from the 34 people trained, 3 ACOs, 3 people already trained, that has a comunidad, that means a policy, joint municipality government that decide to go with us and sign what we call the pilot case Montánchez, which is part of the province of Cáceres. In that case, I try to summarize you here. We have been working in 5 municipalities with average 14 people in all of them. So that means that we have been touching, discussing, knowing directly or indirectly through this ACO, which are working in the territory, around 2 homesteads. But in fact, we have no more than 100 people able to sign the papers. So I will discuss that a little bit later concerning the ethical dilemmas. And at the last point, we expect to have at the final of the year, December 26, about 9 municipalities. All of the employees of the municipalities are already trained for doing that, with average 16 people in every municipality at minimum, right? And that would mean more than 500 homestead participants, more than 600 persons. It's really difficult to have all the minimum convention that the project expects. I would like to share with you this other, this image concerning the ethical dilemma. When we make these assemblies, here you have some photograph. We take the main photograph from back in order to don't need this permission for making photograph. We say them. We're taking some photograph from the back part of the cell of the room, and in this territory, the verbal consent is something traditional, because when you ask them, they say, well, we don't mind. Go ahead if you want to take some photograph with a smile. But if you keep the signature, this is a critical point. Signature, what do you want the signature for? That is in Spanish, that is in English. So the base of our society are more able to smile you and say, of course, take a photograph, than having their signature. This is a critical point, and Rita she's agreeing with that subject. So it's a dilemma that we must share, and we think, in fact, that it's a kind of respect our beneficiaries, respect the people with which we are working. Please, we must decide a border for the bureaucracy. So we have a kind of ethic bureaucracy. This is one of the dilemmas that we want to share with you. The informal consent seems to be at place. Everybody agree with taking some photograph with participant, and many of them sign it. But less than half of the people, most of them, keep out the room without signing the papers. And we have working as well with some kind of vulnerable people, for instance, in the jail of Cáceres. So imagine it was impossible to work with camera. It was impossible to go inside the jail with our phone. So it was inconceivable to try to keep the signature of this kind of really vulnerable people inside prisons. So those are some of the dilemma that we want to share with you. And I would like as well to share this, what we call a kind of horseshoe, 7 steps with an ethical overview. We have make all the points that we have transferred to the mirror during this year and a half, and some of the ethical points that I think that will be interesting to share with you in this first seminar. In the first step of this horse show is the municipal negotiation. We must be clear. We cannot go to a public open assembly with neighborhood without a pre-decision with the policymakers. The mayor, the secretary of the municipality want to know what would happen. You will not offer whatever. We must discuss before what you will share, and you will open to the participation. So this has been clear, not only about the decision, but as well concerning the participatory budget. The participatory budget must be done always with an agreement before with the municipalities. I don't know what would happen in the north countries of the European Union, but I think that in the Mediterranean, it's really important to have the agreement of policymakers before going to an open assembly concerning subjects such critical as waste management, what means a lot of money, interests of large-scale companies, and other critical and really sensible aspects. So after that, we have made the first municipal assembly with Menu Mater. We have been talking about that, where people, as you hear in this, they up hands and say, yeah, I'm doing that at home. I think that that would be interesting, as you are seeing in these photographs. So after that, this first assembly, we make a second assembly as a third step, where we deliver the container that every home will have in order to separate organic matter and start the more decentralized and more natural-based composting process close to homesteads. After the second assembly, we know people trust on us. In these two steps assembly, we go to the started process. The started process need to have somebody trained in what means composting, and that has been mandatory, some employee of the municipality. So we have been training municipal workers for collection and composting in a safe way, safe manner, because that will be microorganisms, pathogens such E. coli or Salmonella or Enterococcus or many other bacteria that will suppose diseases for the community. So they must be trained in order to do that properly. So we have been working with them, two different teams. We have been training 14 people in the different municipalities. After that, when the compost process starts, we call again to the people that have participated in the assemblies in order to go in to see what happened in the composting process. This is the citizen science. What means composting? Here you see the rubbish that you had keep out from your home, how we're mixed in with the ships, and how it is the temperature that we achieve, and that means that it's safe process. That means that the mixture is pasteurized, like milk, etc., with some of the knowledge of people in rural areas concerning how to drink milk safely in a traditional way. So we make in the composting boxes these ongoing composting workshops. If average will participate between 20 people in the second and 30 in the first and in the second assembly, in the workshops, usually there are no more than 7 or 5. So every step we go further, the participation is weaker, at least at this moment. We have only in 1 and 2 in the municipalities, Zarza and Botija, arrived to the sixth step, which is the workshop in which the compost is done and you keep it free to the people. This link is an ethical linking. You bring me your rubbish, I'll bring you back the compost, what we have done with the handcraft of the municipal workers. And the seventh and the closure of the horseshoe is the ordinance. After all this cultural change is ethical issue, but it's as well a cultural change. After 1 year, 1.5 years, 2.5 years, depending of the municipalities, we achieve 2 ordinances. And in the ordinance, our focus is how to consolidate that the management of the waste is not a subject of just employees or just municipal policies, is mandatory must be in consideration what people think about what to do, what they produce at home. So the participation is because you are producing a biomass, and this biomass is part of your personal responsibility that will link you with nature or link less with nature, and if you bring to large scale conventional solutions. And this is some of the aspects of ethic aspect that we discuss with them step by steps, right? I will continue with this one, because ethic as well concern living knowledge lab. In the document that you present us, we have been thinking, what is exactly the difference in between the living knowledge lab and the pilot case? The pilot case is a territory, right? We're going to discuss about that. What means living knowledge lab in the practice? So in our case, our living knowledge lab, and so the ethical issues we are discussing or reflection about are local municipalities. We have been touching about 30 different local places where small, medium, or high level engagement with participatory composting processes. We have been working with 3 joint municipalities, mancomunidades, we say in Spanish, and we have had a strange relation with 1 provincial level. And as well, we have spread some of the seminars and information all around the region of Extremadura with 2 provinces. One of them is Cáceres, the name of the pilot, but we have as well created a living knowledge lab with people of the other province, even further. Some ACOs have been participating in the online from Chile or from other countries of the European Union, Spanish speakers. So in our case, it's not only ethical issue, the fact of working with the Mancomunidad of Montanche, what I explained you before, with the homesteads, composting boxes, and etc. But the ACO had started different small scales with not such accessibility to resources, human resources, financial resources, or technical resources. In Llobera, they has created an association. We think that the creation of association or contributing to create new civil social society could be an ethical issue. The society in Europe will go ahead because there are people involved, not professionally, not familiarly, not homestead, but in a collective way. So to create association that will be as well an ethical focus. And in that point, we have contributed to create 2 associations. One is Llobera with 4 ACOs and many other people that had joined them in this small area. 4 ACOs in El Casar de Cáceres, a small village where there has been a lot of movement because what the starting gate to gate collecting organic matter. So there was people against, or there was agree with this gate to gate collection organic. So they're not already create an association. I don't know. They are not pressured at all for doing that, but they are continue working together. We have help on an entrepreneurship in Arroyo de la Luz, which now is receiving half of their revenues. It's concerning the ethical employment, because composting will permit people to consolidate their entrepreneurships. And that has been created another association in Badajoz, in the other provinces, called Residuo Cero, with 2 ACOs over there. I think that I have not so much time, so I will finish, right, Andreia? Yeah, it's my last slide.
Yes, thank you,
No,
Franco.
sorry,
Sorry
because there
to
are many things
interrupt
to.
you.
So
Yeah.
I have just this summarizing a slide in which we compare what happened or how we evaluate these 5 dimensions of what means TRANS-light: transformative, reflection, activism, networking, and solutions, practical solutions. And we have evaluated the difference in between how does it running in the segment case and how does it running in the Sierra de Montánchez with the municipal council, with ordinances, legal framework, and what happened with the activists, the ACO, or OCA, depending if we say that in Spanish or in English. As you see, in the case of how we see what happened and the culture of the change culture of the ethical framework in the case of Madrid, In transformative, there are 4 from 5 points. 4 in reflection. They have a really high level of reflection about what's happening with policymakers, with regional government, with the state government. And 5 in activism. There are people that are using many hours of them by free all the weeks in order to try to achieve a better world, a different world that we are conventionally knowing around. What happened in the case of Cáceres? The ACO are really activists. As you see, we point them 5. They are really engaged as a profession or as just for volunteers during their free time. They are really engaged. They are really high level reflection about what happened in the world, the limits of the growth in all the world around, how that will impact in what they do with organic matter in the neighborhood. The reflection is high level. But in the case of our properly pilot case, Sierra de Montánchez, with mostly elder people living in small villages. Imagine you, in the case of Portugal, like a freguesia de 200 pessoas. A majority, most part of the municipalities in our Sierra de Montánchez has less than 300 inhabitants, and it's a municipal framework, right? So they are in transformation, they are engaging, they want to transfer how they're managing the waste, don't bring it that to the last point of keeping under soil, and don't remember how to say that in English, sorry. So this is the point. The ethical issues are difficult to impact in traditional rural areas. They have other values that we really appreciate, but the change in ethical values will be a longer way. I would like to share some other image, but I have no time. Thank you very much, Andreia, and sorry.
No, not sorry. Thank you, Franco, for your presentation. Now I will give the floor to Mónica Cuende.
Okay. Now, I will try to, well, thank you, Andreia, thank you, Cés, and thank you all the people. Today, let me share in my presentation. Okay, let me see. Permitir la pantalla. Okay. So Franco present the one side of the ethics, more focusing on people, on community, and I will share with you the ethics through thinking of from public fundings to the common good. So in a community aspect, no, but this two for us is important, no, what you are doing with these public fundings. For us, it's important the ethical decisions that we have taken in this pilot. And the aim of these ethical final decisions is the common good, no, of these decisions. And we will present you a Composta Net app that it's an application that we develop through the process of the implementation of the pilot, and that we we have some not lessons probably to share with you, but some questions and decisions that we take, and let's see if they are, and we know that they are aligned with the ethics in Horizon Europe projects. So I will present you the frame of the ethics in Horizon Europe through the perspective of technical developments And I will present you the CompostaNet app as a pilot case study. And the knowledge and data, I forgot the data word, transfer. And we will not see the fact question, but you will have this presentation. So when the objective of this presentation in the webinar of Ethics in Action is to demonstrate the ethical is not only about protecting people and the privacy and consents, but also about the decisions that we take, how to share also this knowledge and the tools that we develop through public fundings, because public fundings is something important, that to be in the core of the decisions that we take, because they are public, they are part of all these European citizens, and we must to take this in consideration. So Horizon Europe promotes the ethical development of technology through some principles such as open science, transparency, responsible research, and innovation, but also maximizing the societal value of public funding research. The name of our association is BioRegional Economies. For us, it's important, once we are not working anymore in the territory, which structures, which knowledge, which also common goods we remain in the territory. So maximizing this societal value of the public funds are in the core of our work as practitioners. And within this framework, we open one line that is we develop an app, but we don't develop this app as a private app, of course, but not only also as an open source software, but as a free and open source software, these FOSS acronyms, that represents an ethical choice of the governance and co-creation process of this project that puts these principles into practice. So the frame of CompostaNet app, as a pilot case study, our natural-based solution developed in the pilot is the community composting. As Franco explained, also the governance and the stakeholders and the reality of Cáceres province culture on participation. So we have been implement primarily this compost pilot in rural municipalities, in rural areas. Most of the different community composting municipalities are rural ones, where citizens participate, but delivering not properly separate the bio-waste. As Franco said, most of the responsible of this separation of the bio-waste, as you see in the picture, are women. While municipal technicians and operational staff are the responsible for managing the composting process. Because some communities, but more associations or more activist communities, the citizens or the participants are not only separating bio-waste, but also composting. But this is not the case, because our ecosystem stakeholders are municipality and the citizen. So in the municipality, the responsible of the managing of the composting process are municipal staff. So this municipal staff, even the technicians, even the elected representative, are not so engaged. They don't know a lot of what it means composting and the compost and bio waste. So we start the process of unlearning and learning, no, with the methodologies with Ella and the University of Lovaina and UX in Cáceres. And we see also the need to support the work, no, of the municipality, especially the municipality staff, that they will be the ones, no, composting the bio waste. So we support them by training in this concept of organic waste agent, that most of the contents are regarding of the master of composting training. But also we see the need to sorry, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, Mónica.
Okay, sorry. I hear some noise. Okay, sorry. To support this work, we see the need to have some because the municipalities has the mandatory of bring some data of the work done to demonstrate to prove that this process is well done. So usually, no, they take the information in paper sheets. This information is information that it's regarding the temperature, the turning operations, the odors, the insects, no, all these operational parameters. We thought that it was interesting and make it more easier to have an application. So we developed a free and open source software application to monitor these key process variables. This application, that free and open source application, we see after what it means. This free, that is not only that you don't pay anything, it's more about freedom, that of the cost of the application. This application, Composta Net or Compost Net app, there is not a naming, final naming, but just to understood that it's a compost. The data is of the compost process and these parameters, and net because we pretend to share, no, this application in a network, in a national composting network, and well, this application is currently in beta stage. So we are testing this application, and once we validate its application, we expect to transfer in several ways. We will see now how we will transfer this application. And we start asking ourselves some ethical principles of founding, how to build this common good. And we decide that the best way to also open a new philosophy and ethical aspects it's this philosophy of the copyleft ethics that it's the opposite of a copyright. So if we are talking of public funds, I think that sometimes it's not so ethical if we use copyright licenses or some patents, things like. But well, we through this copyleft philosophy, we look for which license could fit in the ethics of TRANS-lighthouses pilot, thinking that our pilot, the base is the communities, the knowledge, and we take this license that Richard Stallman, that it's a informatic engineer, but also a hacker. A hacker in a good sense of hacker, not a cracker. A hacker is someone that that needs to see the source, the source of the develop of the software to share, to implement some. No me sale la palabra web. To implement some changes and to share with the community. So this license of the philosophy of copyleft, the one that we find that it was more near of also the work done, it's this GNU, it's the name of the foundation of this Richard Stallman hacker. I like to highlight that it's a hacker, a knowledge hacker. And this general public license, I will present it later, this general license public license, sorry. And this decision is aligned with the core principle of Horizon Europe, including the ethical development of technology, the open science, the responsible research, and the innovation. And also to promoting of the common good that for us is one of the main principles of the pilot, this common good for communities. So why this license was chosen, Was chosen because ensure transparency, auditability, reuse of the code. We are talking of the code, like the code of this software, and long-term sustainability in terms of technology. We are talking of sustainability in the sense of tech, while ensuring that improvement remains available to the community, to TRANS-lighthouse community, to European community, to any community that can access to this open source code, So what is a free software? Well, I mentioned this copyleft philosophy, and also I present you the free software movement, which is I don't want to say the opposite of let's say that it's the opposite of privative software, but sometimes you find also software that it's open source software, but they don't warranty to the end user for fundamental freedoms, because there is not ethics without freedom. And sometimes in technology, we confuse not the open code with something is free in the sense of I don't pay anything, but I have access, but not some really the access of the open code, and also it's not free. Why is not free, and why these 4 fundamental freedoms are important for us, and why we choose this license that it's aligned with the ethical of Horizon Europe ethics in techniques, because one of the first freedom is to run the program and decide for any purpose, no? Any purpose. It doesn't matter if you sell this as a service or not, any purpose. The freedom to study how the program works and modify and it performs desired computing task. Access, it means access to the source code, no? But a real access to the all source code. We see with IA, but not only with IA, with some programs that we use in the computer, or some, let's say, we know, well, some applications that you can access to certain level of open source, but open code, but the code, but not all the code. Another freedom is to distribute the copies, this code, the improvements to help others to enrich the community and to grow the community, but also to grow the knowledge and this open, this common good. And the freedom to distribute copies of modified versions to other people. So we have other licenses like public domain. No, public domain actually has no restriction. It's the main open license that you can use, but it's so open that also permit that companies privatize, no, make private, not open the source, not share the code to the community. So even if we are aware of the open, this public domain should be probably the best, not the best, no, the with less restrictions, because sometimes restriction, it doesn't mean that you don't have freedom, or you don't, sometimes restrictions, it's good for these companies with huge economy and resources, and other communities cannot make use, no, in the same way. So we decide to keep certainly freedoms, because for us it's important that you can copy, you can modify, you can make a distribution paid or not. Maybe you ask to pay the service of develop, no, the another application different, no, a fork of our application. So this license is the one that it's aligned with this philosophy of copyleft and what we think that communities. It's one of the ways to keep the open. No, it's paradox. It's a paradox that you make a restriction to keep full the knowledge and the warranties and the freedom of the communities. But this paradox, it's well kept with this. Is like a steward, no, of our knowledge of this application. Well, this is you will see later, this is just to understand why free software. Free software is a kind of software that we develop, and this is possible because you have an open code, no, or open source, and you share this source, no, openly. You have free contents, and but this is you need to read carefully. So how we this knowledge and the data, know how we think that we will transfer it. So first, we must guarantee, no, this open source, that the source, the code, more than the source, the code, the source, it's available for any community. So we will have a repository with this open code in a GitHub, probably, with under this license, no? And it will be available. We will must discuss if it will be in the website in the web of TRANS-lighthouses. If this is deliverable or not, let's see, no? But it will be in a GitHub open for share and for make any contribution. Secondly, we will transfer the develop app because we have the code, we have the develop app, no, the deploy of this code with the backend and the front end. We want to develop. We want to share this develop app through an agreement to a national composting network that it's formed by municipality, the ecosystem, no, the stakeholders of this national composting network. It's formed by municipalities, civil society entities, some composting, master composting. So we want to share this develop app with an agreement that keeps this license. And also, we want to ensure, we will see if we are able to, what the governance of this application between all the stakeholders of this national network of composting. There is a third step that it's, I think that it will be further because it's more complex. It's also like really new for a lot of us. That is share because with this app, as we see the Composta.net app here. It's to monitor, no, the operational parameters like temperature, moisturing, turning, operation outdoors. We want to open other parameters like the carbon that we save, no, the carbon that we save and other parameters as I say further. And we think that this data it's relevant data for researchers, for university, for anyone that want to improve how to manage, no, the composting, and also to prove that composting is a natural-based solution that needs not to prove that it's a natural-based solution, but to contribute to make the process, no, safe and also in a technical way, because you need to do composting in a certain way. You cannot do composting. I mean, yes, you can do, but you cannot say that you have compost, and you cannot probably say that this is a natural-based solution because probably some parameters will be not proper to the final compost solution. So this third and further step is share the relevant composting data in the Green Deal data space, that it's a European Union digital infrastructure that enables the secure sharing of and access to environmental data. By right now, well, actually, we have an agreement with a university that it's not it's not a stakeholder of TRANS-lighthouses. Is the Alicante University that they share an space in their data space infrastructure that it calls LEADE, and we are there training, no, how to make the governance of data, of the final data of composting, to also bring this knowledge to this network, and why all this why we want to share this data with this Green Deal, no, data space, because it will be the space that will keep information of climate adaptation. No, if we composting, it's an alley of for the climate adaptation, because safe carbon, and also because there is important that circular economy has information of community compost and composting. But this is further is a really interest ecosystem of several stakeholders, university, municipalities. I mean, it's so aligned with the methodology, of Horizon Europe and the methodology of the TRANS-lighthouses project. I have some facts if you want to ask more. Some fact I already answered. No, it's about the public domain. And thank you.
Thank you, Mónica.
I hope that sorry, Andreia, one more here. All right. I hope that with this explanation, it's more clear why we consider this app and all the decisions that we take with license share the app and the data further in this European step is an ethical issue for us, so important, and also because it's important for us how to rethink these public fundings to common to build and construct common.
Thank you, Mónica. I'd like to give the floor to Mónica Lopes because we just have 20 minutes, so let's see. Thank you, Mónica.
I will try to keep it on time, Andreia, and thank you very much for this invitation. Let me begin by thanking both pilot teams, the Azores teams and Cáceres team, for two thoughtful and honest presentations. What struck me in both cases was not only the commitment to ethical practice, but the willingness to name what did not work as well as what did work. I believe this kind of candor is in itself an ethical act, and it makes for a much more useful discussion. I also want to congratulate TRANS-lighthouses consortium more broadly for keeping research ethics at the center of the project. Now, why am I here? As Andreia mentioned, I shared the Center for Social Studies Ethics Committee for about a year. It wasn't a long time, so I do not claim long-standing expertise, but it was long enough to see the massive gap that often exists between what ethical guidelines say on paper and what actually happens when you're working with real communities on the ground. I should say that my familiarity with the TRANS-lighthouses is very superficial. My comments today are based above all on the materials I received in advance, particularly the Code of Ethical Conduct and the ethics reports, which gave me the framework to anticipate what the pilots might raise here today. The presentations we just saw really brought those papers to life. I will organize my remarks around some of the themes proposed for the discussion, key challenges, great lessons, and recommendations. In terms of visuals, I have very little to offer. No slides, and some technical issues mean you can even see my face, which honestly may not be a great loss. And before we'll look at the challenges. Let's appreciate what makes this project different. The TRANS-lighthouses Code of Ethical Conduct is not just a boring bureaucratic checklist of consent forms and data protection boxes. It is much more ambitious. Most research ethics instruments are essentially procedural. Consent forms, data protection protocols, human subject templates, and these are necessary, but they are not sufficient, especially when working with communities, with vulnerable groups, and with nature itself. What the project attempted and what both presentations illustrated is more ambitious. It tries to ground ethical principles in real dilemmas, the ones that emerge from the living knowledge labs, from actual encounters between stakeholders, from the specific context of each pilot. Structuring ethics across 4 dimensions: participatory governance, social, nature, and economy, resists the reduction of ethics to a checklist. And the co-construction process, the Monday's Ethics Meetup series, meant that the framework was not handed down from the coordination institution. It was negotiated, refined, and co-owned. And that is an important difference. And both presentations today clearly reflect it. From my own experience in an ethics committee, I know how rare it is to see practitioners actively shaping the framework rather than merely applying it. And in my opinion, that is one of the strengths of this project. And moving for the challenges emerging for my reading of the documents and from these presentations. My first point is about time. There is a classic mismatch between the rhythm of institutional ethics review and the rhythm of participatory action research. And the Azores team described this perfectly. Their local community activities had to start before the project's official ethical templates were even ready. They acted responsibly by using the University of Azores' own approved ethical tools, but the tension was here. And this friction is highly recognizable to anyone who has sat on an institutional ethics committee. Ethics committees, including the one I shared, are designed for a linear research model. A protocol is submitted, approved, and executed without change. In contrast, co-creation is emergent, interactive, and highly time-sensitive. The community does not operate on community and committee timelines. I believe the solution is not to lower ethical standards, but rather to construct what I call an adaptive ethics infrastructure that allows for continuous interactive ethical monitoring and rapid response approvals, aligning the pace of institutional oversight with the live realities of the live realities of the field. The second challenge is about the limits of universality, and it is a very common difficulty in transnational research. A project like TRANS-lighthouses operates across pilots in different countries and under different national legal frameworks. GDPR is implemented differently, data retention rules vary, and informed consent templates have to be approved by local ethics committees with their own specific requirements. And here, the Cáceres presentation raise a point I want to highlight because I think it goes deeper than a procedural issue. In some communities, namely rural communities, written consent is not culturally neutral. It can create distance, distrust, or even fear. Oral consent works naturally, a form does not. And this is a good example of how a requirement that seems universal, get it in writing, can actually undermine the very relationship of trust that ethical research depends on. It is a reminder that ethical forms are tools, not ends in themselves. And this has direct implications for how we design ethical frameworks in transnational projects. Ethical principles have to be formulated at a level of abstraction that is transferable, while remaining attentive to the fact that that implementation will always be local, contextual, and somewhat imperfect. And closely connected to this challenge is the third one, inclusion. Both presentations showed how, despite real efforts, some groups remain hard to reach. Homeless people, undocumented migrants, people in precarious situations. And the fieldwork shows that some barriers are simply too high for an ethics protocol to solve on its own. At the same time, both teams also explored more creative responses than simply invite these publics to participate, from indirect forms of engagement and collaboration with organizations that work with them every day, to using their situations as reference points for thinking about fairness and vulnerability in the design of solutions. And Cáceres' team raised another point here. When you try to work with high vulnerable groups under state or institutional custody, like incarcerated people or the homeless, they simply do not have the basic freedom or autonomy to participate in long-term co-creation. And this reality expose a limitation of standard ethical protocols. They assume a participant who is a full autonomous, unconstrained subject. When systematic barriers are so deeply entrenched, research ethics protocols alone cannot resolve them. They require broader institutional, national, and municipal political response. The third challenge is my favorite. How do we give voice to the nature? How do we avoid treating nature as just a tool for human needs? Both pilots highlight the difficulty of moving beyond an utilitarian, anthropocentric relationship with natural systems. The Azores team showed us how they did this in practice before organizing the cinema on-trail activity inside a sensitive nature reserve. They formally consulted a bird expert from the Portuguese Society for Study of Birds. I suppose this is the name. They wanted to make sure that light and noise of the projection wouldn't disturb local birds. But this example also illustrates that giving voice to nature requires scientific and civic mediation, because natural ecosystems cannot directly voice their interests in human governance. Human actors must serve as reflexive mediators. So the big ethical question is, which humans get to speak for nature? The choice of which human actors mediate is itself a normative decision. And the project is very honest about this question. and the honesty is the great starting point. So, what are the big lessons we can take away? I would highlight four, which cut across what we heard today and what was documented in the ethics reports. One lesson is that participation is not only about inviting more people to activities, but about clarifying who carries ethical responsibility from the start. The experience of the ethical focal points shows that bringing these teams in early and ensuring that they include not just institutional actors, but people rooted in the community makes it easier to spot dilemmas before they escalate. A second lesson is that monitoring ethics is more than checking boxes. What I found especially interesting in the Azores case is a move towards systematic recording of ethical dilemmas and decisions taken in each activity. That kind of documentation does not exist just to prove compliance. It creates a space where teams can look back, question their own choices, and adjust their practice over time. A third lesson concerns governance. The pilots show that ethical frameworks need to breathe with the project. They have to allow teams to rethink procedures when the context changes, and to follow the ethical effects of decisions over time rather than assuming that one initial approval is enough. From an ethics committee perspective, this is a shift from we approve it once to we stay in conversation with what is happening. And finally, both pilots underline that the relationship between humans and nature is not just a backdrop. It is central to the ethical discussion. A key lesson is that ecological values and the attempt to give nature a kind of voice have to appear explicitly when decisions are being made, in how options are framed, in which criteria are used to assess them, and in whose expertise is brought into room. I would like to close with a beautiful metaphor offered by the Azores team. Rita and the team say that ethical governance is like walking a trail. There is no perfect mat, and there is no perfect path. There is only our shared commitment to listen, to reflect, and to adapt with every single step we take. As someone who has looked at this from the community side and the research side, I think that's the perfect way to look at it. We are all walking the same trail. Thank you so much, and I look forward to our discussion.
Thank you, Mónica, for your thoughts and reflections and contributions. I'd like to open the floor for the debate. We can have more 10 minutes, maybe. So please comment or conduct some questions, some ideas, some reflections that you have. And many thanks for your contributions. Go ahead, Natalie.
I'm just opening for the others who will come after me. Okay. No, I was very happy to, well, I thank you very much, and Rita, Franco, Mónica, and for the comments of Mónica as well, because in fact, it seems to me that these presentations brought it really ethics in action, and it was very good to see and to know about how it happened locally, how the 30, 60, no, 360, 360 angle
36.
view. Well, the complete view, all the angles you help us to see. I think that Rita brought very well this issue of human nature relations. It was, and as Mónica also said, it was very sincere, honest. And, I think that with this we will have very good outputs, meaning very good recommendations for other initiatives and also for the funding agencies. And in the case of EBR, it was well, you made it so sophisticated. Also, I thought that the three levels that Franco presented are sophisticated, but are also at the same time so accessible. It was a very different way of looking at ethics without all the protocols, principles. I think that was very good. And our colleague Mónica Cuende also was from the beginning that I know this wonderful human being, how she opens to other dimensions that we even don't take time to look at, like all these aspects of the free access and to data, to softwares. It helps us to look beyond, to look because in these very intense projects we are always with the nose on the day-to-day practice of doing research, and I think that that's the advantage of having also a civil society organization helping us to make it more practical, in fact. So these were my comments.
Thank you, Natalie. Ella, did you raise your hand?
Yes, I can. So thank you very much for all the presenters for this ethics in action overview of anchored in the pilot cases. I had maybe one or two questions for Mónica. I think it's very interesting to have this understanding of ethics related to decisions that we make concerning economic institutions such as ownership. So I think it's very important. I was wondering if you have had discussions with our Cyprus Institute colleagues that are also developing apps. I don't know if they use this copyleft ethics. I don't know if it is something that was part of the pilots forum, or if it can be something beyond your pilots and something more general discussion within TRANS-lighthouses. So this is one question. And the other question, maybe for Rita, when you present the community activities with the Remedios locality, I was wondering, because the idea that I had is that also the trial is involving a lot of international people, maybe some form of regenerative tourism. Is there a dilemma or a tension there between the locals and other visitors from abroad? Because you also mentioned the limited capacity of the trial. So is there a dilemma, something that ethically needs to be discussed? So thank you very much.
Maybe I can give the floor to all the presenters to answer. Thank you. Mónica, go ahead.
I don't know if I understand. Sorry. I won't be aware that I understand you, Ella, at your question. It was regarding the pilot forum, if we share the app with them. It was the...
Yes, because there is other pilots also working with apps in TRANS-lighthouses. To my understanding, it is the Cyprus Institute that is also developing apps. So I was wondering if you had the opportunity to discuss.
Yeah, we have shared in the last pilot forum, we have 50 minutes for presenting that. And we have discussing with Haralampur for more than half a year. So he's absolutely knowing every path that we have made during this process. But the reflection that we have shared today is not shared with them because it's mostly ethical than pilot case technical process. So there are two dimensions in the application. That's what we asked the possibility of presenting here.
Well, I want to say that there is, when you develop an app, it's not easy because the developer think that this is their own, no? We confuse the ownership with the authorship. And we have an interesting case of study because we have data of the final data, it's of the municipalities, the composters, and also I want to share something that it's, I never think about that maybe with this app and the results that we have some ¿cómo se dice en Franco? Graphics, yeah.
Figures.
It's not the voice of nature, but it's a certainly way to bring some heart, I don't know, something of the nature that cannot be shared with people, no? And this is also the importance of this data that in a further step, we hope it's in this Green Deal European data space. But we have this. I want a meeting with Cyprus to talk of ownership, licenses, about governance, not only of the data, of how to share the source, the code. We need this conversation. Also the philosophy of the copyleft, no, and we focus more, as you see, in a hacker way. Even if it was not easy, because it's not easy to find developers that are aligned with something different of copyleft, owner, patentes, and make money and money and money. It doesn't matter. I mean, there is not, for me, it's important this link of public fund, no, and the common good, especially in this project. And for me, it's so ethic this that any decision, no, I don't work in a university, so I don't have these protocols. But as a little NGO, sometimes it's not different. It's not easy to bring this philosophy with municipalities in the projects, no? Because yes, but I developed this is mine, no? Even in the articles, in the articles of the university, in the papers, oh my God, this thing of the ownership that is different of the authority, no? Because author, you must recognize this, but you can build community if you have this kind of license and public license, or not, or you cannot. You can have great results as university, as developer. So for us, this is not as important, no, this part of, but the community. So we think that this is the best, but we have some more deep conversation with Cyprus and could be maybe a webinar of digitalization and technology and data, and because there is a great debate there.
Thank you.
I will try to be very brief, and I'm so thankful for your question, Ella. That's absolutely a dilemma, the sharing of this natural space between the local community and foreigners. There is a lot to say about that, but I will try to summary my response. I will start just by contextualizing the pilot in a sociological perspective, because this is a rural community that lives close to the trail, and where the hiking as a practice, it's not really embedded in the everyday ways of connecting with nature, more so for the young people. So I would say from the interviews and all the questionnaires data that we collected, that this ownership of the trail is not really there. So they, for most of the older members of the community, the trail is something for others to do, for the foreigners. Okay, this is changing with the younger people. And this was something that the pilot tried to change. So we bringing the community to the trail. So these ideas to change. But that is, of course, an ethical dilemma for sure. And I'm so grateful that you brought that up. That would be a lot more to say about it. I don't know if my colleagues from the University of the Azores want to add something. I don't know if you have time, but be free to do it. And thank you.
I'll be very brief. Not what Rita was saying, of course, is true, but it's not necessarily foreigners. It's just visitors. People, they're not from that specific place.
Yes, sorry, tourists. What I meant was tourists, yeah.
Thank you for all the answers. We need to close in. Go ahead, Franco, please.
No,
sorry.
Probably it's too late. So just
no, please. We have 5
so
minutes because Mónica need to
all
left.
right, thank you very much. So,
thank you, Franco.
I forget to mention that we have an ethical committee with 2 women, which are part of this committee, that in case of conflict, they will act. We have had no conflict, so the committee has never been joined, right? So they meet each other, and they are there as a part of the ethical point, but we forget to mention that because there were many information to share. And the other questions is concerning the last of the transcendental point, which mentioned Mónica Lopes, the mediation in the dialogue between human and nature. I think I'm comfortable saying that I think that the human awareness is the mediation. And the awareness is not conventional awareness, it's not the awareness of a conventional experience of nature. You must to have a deeper relation with nature in order to be aware of what means that. So it's my answer to that question, but it's just not relevant, but it's to me it's clear. The human awareness is who will make this mediation. I think that the humanity is responsible, not just trying to keep the natural voice, but through the conscience of human being. Thank you.
Thank you, Franco. Mónica, do you want to share something? No? Anyone? Okay. Thank you so much for your presentations, for your efforts to share your reflections during this pathway that we start in the beginning. Now we have all these results and ideas. Maybe we can think about how to improve these presentations for a specific output, like a policy brief into our deliverables that we have regarding to ethics and work package 7. And that's it. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Mónica, thank you again for your availability and for the readings that you conducted, and all the comments. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank
You-
you. Bye.
Insightful
Bye-bye.
presentations.
Bye. Thank you.